The night was quiet. The street was almost empty. The man walked alone, his hands in his pockets, thinking about nothing special. The air was cool and only the sound of his shoes touching the ground could be heard. It was an ordinary night, until it wasn't. He heard something, a sharp sound like someone running. At first he thought it was just his mind playing tricks, but then it grew louder. Footsteps, fast, desperate. Someone was coming. He turned his head, and that's when he saw her, a girl. Oh, not a normal girl. She came running out of the shadows, her silver hair shining in the moonlight. Her eyes glowed faintly like two tiny stars. She looked frightened, breathing heavily, and without a word, she ran straight to him and hid behind his back. The man froze. He didn't know what was happening. Who was she? Why did she look so different? And why was she hiding behind him, as if he could protect her from something dangerous? Before he could speak, he heard another sound, a strange sound not human. Metallic, a low hum mixed with a crackle of energy. It came from the darkness at the far end of the street. Something was moving there, something that didn't belong. The girl pressed herself closer against his back. Her small hands clutched his coat. Her voice was low, trembling, but clear enough for him to hear. Please, don't let them find me. The man's heartbeat quickened. Who was them? Why was she so afraid? And what kind of danger had just arrived on this quiet night? The sound grew louder. He could now see faint red lights moving in the shadows. Shapes, tall, dark shapes scanning the area. They weren't men. Their movements were too sharp, too exact, too cold. Machines? Soldiers? Hunters? He couldn't tell. One thing was certain. They were searching. And they were searching for her. The man's instincts told him to step away. To leave the girl and run. She wasn't his problem. Whatever she had done, whatever she was, he didn't want to be part of it. But something stopped him. Maybe it was the way her voice broke when she begged. Maybe it was the way her glowing eyes shone with fear, but also with something else. Hope. She believed he could help her. She believed he could protect her, and that belief chained his feet to the ground. The shapes moved closer. The red light scanned walls, doors, windows. Every shadow was cut open by their cold search beams. The man felt the girl trembling behind him. He had no idea what to do, but one thought repeated in his head. If they find her, it will be the end of her. The sound of metal against stone echoed as one of the hunters stepped closer. Its red eye beam passed only a few feet away from them. The man held his breath. He could feel the girl's heart racing against his back. Seconds felt like hours. The hunters paused, scanning. Then finally, they turned in another direction. Their steps faded slowly into the distance. The man exhaled slowly, realizing he had been holding his breath. The girl let out a shaky whisper. Thank you. Thank you. He turned to face her properly for the first time. She was young, maybe 17, maybe 18. Her face looked almost human, but not fully. The strange glowing eyes, the silver hair, and faint lines on her skin that seemed to shimmer in the moonlight. She was not from here. Not from this world, the man finally spoke, his voice low. Who are you? And what are they? The girl shook her head. I can't tell you. Not now. Please, just don't let them take me. Before he could ask again, another distant sound echoed. The hunters weren't gone. They were circling back. Searching again. The man had to make a choice. Leave her here and escape, or take her with him and face whatever danger was coming. He looked into her strange, shining eyes. They were filled with fear, but also with trust. She trusted him, someone she didn't even know. For reasons he couldn't understand, he nodded. Come with me. The girl's expression softened with relief. She followed close behind as the man led her down a narrow street, away from the hunter's beams. But even as they escaped into the darkness, one truth echoed in his mind. This was no normal girl. This was no normal night. Something had begun. Something bigger than him. Something dangerous. He didn't know it yet. But the reason she ran to him, the reason she hid behind his back, would break his heart. And this was only the beginning. The man and the strange girl moved quickly through the narrow streets. The air was cold, and every sound felt louder in the silence of the night. Their footsteps echoed against the walls. Behind them, faint mechanical noises followed, like wolves stalking their prey. The girl stayed close. She barely spoke, but her eyes darted everywhere, scanning the shadows. She seemed to know the hunters better than anyone else. She seemed to know exactly how dangerous they were. Finally, the man pulled her into an old storage shed at the edge of the street. The wood was rotten, the door broken, but it gave them a moment of cover. Inside, it smelled of dust and old metal. The girl leaned against the wall, breathing heavily. Her glowing eyes dimmed slightly as if she was trying to hide their light. She looked tired, afraid. The man studied her face in the faint light. She looked human enough. Her skin was pale, almost too pale. Thin lines of silver traced across her arms like veins of light under her skin. Her silver hair fell over her shoulders, tangled from running. He had never seen anyone like her before. "You need to tell me what's going on," he whispered. "Who are they? Why are they after you?" The girl shook her head. "If I tell you, it will only put you in more danger." The man gave a sharp laugh, though his voice stayed low. "More danger? You already brought them to me. I think I deserve some answers." Her lips trembled. She looked away, staring at the floor. For a moment she seemed ready to speak, but then she stopped. Her eyes filled with a quiet sadness. "They don't stop," she finally said, her voice almost broken. "Once they begin the hunt, they don't stop until the target is gone." The man felt a chill run down his spine. The way she said gone didn't sound like capture. It sounded final. He leaned closer. "Why you? What did you do?" The girl hesitated. Then, almost too softly to hear, she whispered, "I didn't do anything. My only crime is being born." The words struck him. He wanted to ask more, but before he could, a sound outside froze them both. A red beam of light cut across the shed's broken door. The hunters had returned. The girl grabbed his arm, her grip surprisingly strong for someone so small. She didn't speak, but her eyes pleaded with him. "Don't let them find me." The man's heart pounded. He had no plan. He was just a normal person caught in something impossible. But in that moment, one thought burned in his head. If I do nothing, she dies. If I help her, I might die too. But if I walk away, I will never forgive myself. The shadow of one hunter passed across the crack in the door. The red glow scanned the ground, the walls, even the air itself. The man held his breath. The girl pressed against him, hiding her glowing eyes against his chest. Seconds stretched like hours. Finally, the red light moved away. The metallic footsteps faded slowly into the night. The man exhaled, his whole body shaking. "That was too close," he muttered. The girl's hand slipped from his arm. She looked at him with something new in her eyes, something fragile. "Trust." "Why are you helping me?" she asked, her voice trembling. "You don't even know me. I could be dangerous. I could be lying." The man gave a small, tired smile. "Maybe you are. But you're also terrified, and I couldn't just leave you there." Her eyes softened. For the first time since she appeared, she almost smiled. But then the fear returned and she shook her head. "You don't understand," she whispered. "If they find me, they won't stop with me. They'll destroy anyone who stands in their way. That means you." The man paused. She was right. He had just placed himself in the middle of something deadly. And yet as he looked at her, he knew there was no turning back. Outside, the night was silent again. But silence didn't mean safety. Silence only meant the hunters were waiting. The girl touched the strange silver lines on her skin, as if reminding herself they were real. Then she said something that made the man's blood run cold. "They call me an error," she said softly. "A mistake that should never exist." The words echoed in the shed. The man didn't understand, but he knew one thing, whatever she was, whatever mistake she was talking about, it was enough to send monsters after her. And now, those monsters were after him too. The man stood slowly and opened the shed's broken door. The street outside looked empty, but he could feel the hunters nearby, hidden in the shadows, waiting for movement. He looked back at the girl. "We can't stay here. They'll search every corner." The girl hesitated. "Where will we go?" The man didn't have an answer. He just knew they had to move, to stay one step ahead. "Somewhere they can't find us," he said. The girl nodded slowly, her glowing eyes filled with both fear and hope. She followed him out of the shed into the night once more. The hunt was not over. It had only just begun. And the man realized something terrifying. Whatever truth this girl was hiding, it was big enough to kill for, big enough to die for. The night grew heavier. The man and the alien girl moved quickly, their footsteps quiet but urgent. The air was sharp with the smell of rain, though the sky was dry. Somewhere in the distance, a faint hum vibrated through the air. It was not thunder. It was them, The hunters. The girl gripped his arm tightly. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark, but she kept lowering her head, trying to hide the light. She knew even the smallest glow could give them away. The man whispered, "We need to lose them." She nodded, but her voice was tense. "You don't understand. You can't lose them." "They always find me," he didn't reply. He couldn't, his heart was pounding too hard. He turned a corner, pulling her into another narrow street. Broken walls stood on each side, windows like empty eyes staring into the night. Then came the sound again. Metal striking against stone, heavy steps perfectly timed, not walking, not running, marching. The man pulled the girl into a broken alleyway. They crouched behind a rusted dumpster. His breath was shallow, his body tense. The girl leaned close, whispering in his ear, "They can hear your heartbeat." "Be still," her words froze him. He tried to calm himself, but his chest rose and fell too fast. The red glow appeared at the end of the street. One hunter. Its shape was tall, almost human, but its skin was metal and wires. A single red eye burned in the middle of its head, scanning. The man felt sweat run down his neck. He held the girl close, pressing his back to the cold wall. The hunter's head turned. The red light swept across the alley. For one terrifying second it stopped. The beam paused on the dumpster. The girl gripped the man's shirt. She whispered, "Don't move." The red light lingered. Then, like a miracle, it turned away. The hunter stepped forward, scanning another street. The man exhaled, but too soon. A second hunter appeared. Then a third. The machines spread across the area, scanning every wall, every crack. Their voices spoke in a strange, broken language, half static, half growl. The man didn't understand the words, but the girl did. Her eyes widened. "They know," she whispered. "They know I'm near." The man's stomach twisted. He grabbed her hand. "Run!" They burst out of the alley and sprinted down the street. The girl's silver hair flew behind her, catching the faint light. The hunters turned instantly, their red beams locking on them. Alarms echoed through the night. The chase had begun. The man's legs burned as he pushed himself faster. The girl kept pace, light on her feet, though she looked weak moments ago. Behind them, the metallic footsteps thundered. The hunters were faster, stronger, tireless. The man spotted a half-collapsed building ahead. "Inside!" he shouted. They dashed through the broken doorway. Dust filled the air. Old furniture lay scattered, shattered by time. The girl ran behind him, her breathing sharp. The hunters entered seconds later. Red beams cut across the room, slicing through the dust. The man pulled her up a staircase, the wood creaking dangerously. At the top, they ducked into a small room with a shattered window. He looked out. The street below was narrow. If they jumped, maybe they could land on the awning and escape. But the girl shook her head. "Too loud. They will hear the crash. Then what?" the man asked, desperate. She touched the glowing lines on her arm. For a second, they pulsed brighter. "I can hide us." But only for a short time. Before he could ask, she pressed her hand against the wall. The silver lines spread out, glowing faintly across the surface. A strange shimmer covered the room like ripples of water. The hunters entered the floor below. Their red light searched every corner. One of them walked right past the room where they hid. But through the shimmer, the man saw it differently. The hunter looked straight at them, but its eye passed over as if they were invisible. He whispered, amazed, "What did you do?" The girl looked pale, her body trembling. "A trick my mother gave me. But it won't last." The shimmer flickered. Her hands shook as she tried to hold the light. The hunters stayed close. Their heavy steps rattled the floor. One of them stopped outside the room. Its red beam scanned the walls. The shimmer cracked like glass. The girl gasped. "It's breaking!" The man didn't wait. He grabbed her hand and pulled her through the broken window. They landed hard on the awning below, the wood groaning but holding. Then they dropped into the street and ran again. Behind them, the hunters smashed through the walls. Dust and sparks flew into the night. The chase thundered on. The man's lungs burned, but he didn't stop. The girl stumbled once, nearly falling, but he caught her. She whispered, "Why are you still helping me?" He didn't answer. He didn't know himself. Maybe because leaving her felt wrong. Maybe because something about her eyes told him her life mattered. The hunters closed in, their red lights sweeping like blades. The man spotted another alley. He dragged her inside, their bodies pressed against the wall. For a moment, silence. But the silence was broken by a single voice. Cold. Mechanical. Target locked. The girl's face went white, and the man knew. Running would no longer be enough. This was no ordinary chase. This was war. The night swallowed their footsteps as they escaped the hunters' beams once again. The man led the girl through twisting alleys until they reached the ruins of an old factory. The roof was broken, and the air smelled of rust and ash, but for now, it was quiet. The girl collapsed against a wall, her chest rising and falling quickly. Her silver hair stuck to her damp face. The glowing lines on her arms pulsed faintly like a weak heartbeat. The man leaned against a pillar trying to catch his breath. His lungs ached, his legs burned, but his eyes never left her. "You need to tell me," he said, voice rough but steady. "Why are they hunting you? What are you?" The girl looked at him, her glowing eyes full of fear. For a long moment she said nothing. The silence stretched, broken only by distant metallic echoes. Somewhere far off, the hunters were still searching. Finally, her lips parted. Her voice was soft, trembling but heavy with pain. "They want me because—" "I shouldn't exist," the man frowned. "What do you mean?" The girl looked down at her hands. She traced one glowing line on her arm as if it told a story only she could read. "My people, they don't forgive mistakes, and I am a mistake." Her words made the man's chest tighten. He crouched beside her. "You're not making sense. How can a person be a mistake?" The girl closed her eyes. A single tear slid down her pale cheek. "Because I'm not fully one of them, and I'm not fully one of you." The man's breath caught. He stared at her, his mind racing. "You mean, you're half human?" She nodded slowly, as if ashamed of the truth. "My father was human. My mother was not. Their worlds were never meant to mix. When I was born, I became proof. Proof of something my people hate." The man leaned back, stunned, half human, half alien. He wanted to laugh at the impossibility of it, but the glowing lines on her skin told him it was real. Her voice shook as she continued. "To them I am corruption, a scar on their bloodline. They believe I will bring weakness or war, so they hunt me, not to capture me, to erase me." The man stared at her glowing eyes shining with sorrow. His chest ached with something strange, anger, pity, and a fierce need to protect. He said quietly, "That's why you ran to me." The girl lifted her head. Her eyes shimmered. "I didn't plan it. My legs just carried me. I saw you, and I hoped you would stand in front of me. I hoped you would not push me away." The man felt the weight of her words. He was a stranger, nothing more, yet she had trusted him with her life. Outside, a faint metallic sound echoed again, closer now. The hunters were sweeping the area. The girl tensed. "They're coming back." The man clenched his fists. "Then we'll move again." But she shook her head. "No, you've done enough. If they see you with me, they'll kill you too. Leave me here. Save yourself." Her words were sharp, but her eyes pleaded for the opposite. She wanted him to stay, even as she tried to push him away. The man gave a small, humorless laugh. "After everything tonight, you think I'll just walk off?" "No chance." Her lips trembled. "Why? Why risk your life for me?" The man's answer was simple but firm. "Because you don't deserve to be erased." Her glowing eyes widened. She covered her mouth with her hand as if holding back a sob. The silence that followed was heavy, filled with unspoken pain. Finally, she whispered, "You don't understand. They will never stop. Not until I'm gone. My existence breaks their law. And their law is absolute." The man leaned closer, his eyes fierce. "Then let them come. They'll have to go through me first." The girl looked at him stunned. For the first time, she saw not just a stranger protecting her, but someone willing to stand between her and death. Her hand trembled as she reached for his arm. "If you do this, your life will never be the same." He didn't flinch. It already isn't. Suddenly, a sharp crack echoed outside. The hunters had entered the factory. Red beams of light cut across the broken walls. The girl gasped. The man stood, pulling her up. His voice was steady now, no longer uncertain. "Stay behind me. Whatever happens, don't run this time." The girl's glowing eyes locked on his. She nodded slowly, though fear still shook her body. The hunter's footsteps grew louder, metal grinding against stone, the sound of machines that felt no mercy, no hesitation. The man stood tall, his shadow stretching across the floor. For the first time, he wasn't just a stranger caught in someone else's nightmare. He was part of it now, and as the hunters closed in, he made a silent promise. Whatever secret she carried, whatever truth she feared, He would protect her, even if the reason broke his heart. The hunter's red beam swept across the broken walls of the factory. The man and the girl moved quietly through the shadows, hearts racing, every breath shallow. They managed to slip out through a collapsed door at the back, escaping into the night once more. For a long while, they didn't speak. The man led, the girl followed, and the silence between them grew heavier with every step. Finally, when the street was clear, the man stopped. He turned to her, his eyes sharp. No more running without answers. I need the truth. All of it, the girl hesitated. Her glowing eyes looked down, almost ashamed. She twisted her fingers together, trembling. You already know part of it, she whispered. I am not fully human, and not fully alien. I am in between. That is why they hunt me. The man nodded. Yes, but why? Why does that matter so much? What makes you such a threat? The girl's lips parted, but her voice shook. Because my people believe that half-bloods carry chaos. They say we are born broken, dangerous, a mistake that should never walk in the light. The man frowned. That doesn't sound like truth. That sounds like fear. Her eyes filled with tears. Maybe it is, but fear becomes law in my world, and law becomes death for people like me. The man's chest tightened. He could see how much it hurt her to say these words. She wasn't just hunted. She had been hated since birth. She took a slow breath and lifted her hand. The silver lines on her skin glowed brighter, spreading up her arm like rivers of light. The glow revealed something hidden in her palm, a small metallic crystal no larger than a coin. It pulsed softly, alive with energy. The man stared at it. What is that? Her voice dropped to a whisper. The reason they will never stop chasing me. He leaned closer. The crystal's glow reflected in his eyes. Explain. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she held the object tightly. This is my father's last gift. He was human. He loved my mother, even when it was forbidden. And when I was born, he gave me this. It is not just a crystal, it holds proof. The man's heart raced. Proof of what? Her voice broke as she answered. Proof that humans and my people can live together. Proof that we don't need war. Proof that peace is possible. The man felt as if the ground had shifted beneath him. A single object small enough to fit in a child's hand carried a secret powerful enough to decide the fate of two worlds. The girl clutched the crystal to her chest. But my people don't want peace. Peace means change. Peace means the end of their control. So they hunt me, not because I am dangerous, but because I carry hope. Her voice cracked on the last word and she sank to her knees, crying silently. The man's fists tightened. Anger boiled in his chest, not at her, but at the cruelty of those who wanted her gone. He crouched in front of her, speaking firmly. You are not a mistake. Do you hear me? You are proof of something greater. And if they are afraid of hope, then that means you're more powerful than all of them. Her glowing eyes lifted to his, shimmering with disbelief. Why would you say that? You don't even know me. He gave a small, sad smile. I don't need to know everything. I can see it in you. You're still here. Still fighting. That's enough. The girl's tears fell freely now. She whispered, I was never meant to survive. Every day since I was born, I've been told that. I thought if I kept running, maybe it would end. But it never does. The man reached out, gently holding her trembling hands. Then stop running alone. Let me carry this with you. For a moment, she only stared at him, her glowing eyes wide with shock. No one had ever said those words to her before. But before she could answer, the night shattered. A sharp, metallic screech echoed through the ruins. The hunters had found their trail again. Red beams cut across the street, scanning every wall. The man stood instantly, pulling her up. His voice was firm, stronger than before. No more hiding the truth. No more running away from who you are. If they want to erase you, they'll have to go through both of us. The girl clutched the crystal tightly against her chest, her face pale but determined. Her whisper carried more strength now. If I fall, the hope dies with me. That's why they will never stop. The man stared at her glowing eyes, at the crystal that pulsed like a heartbeat in her hand. He finally understood. She wasn't being hunted because she was weak. She was being hunted because she was the strongest truth their world had ever feared. And as the hunter's red lights closed in, the man knew. This truth was worth fighting for, even if it broke his heart. The sound of the hunters grew louder. Metal feet against stone. The hum of machines searching. The air itself felt heavy, charged with their presence. The man and the alien girl ran until they reached the edge of the city. Ahead lay a wide stretch of forest, dark and endless. The trees swayed in the cold wind, their shadows long and sharp. The girl slowed, breathing hard. Her glowing eyes scanned the forest, then the streets behind them. Red beams of light moved closer, cutting across the night. "There are too many," she whispered, her voice breaking. "We can't outrun them anymore." The man shook his head. "We've made it this far. We'll keep moving." Her hand caught his arm, strong, desperate. "No, listen to me." He turned. Her glowing eyes shimmered with sorrow. "You don't understand. They don't care about you. They don't care about this city. They want me. Only me." Her lips trembled as she said the words that stabbed his chest. "If I give myself to them, you can live." The man froze. His fists clenched. He stared at her, unable to believe what he was hearing. "You think I'll just stand here and watch you walk into death?" His voice was sharp, almost angry. Her tears fell, glowing faintly in the moonlight. "It's the only way. If they catch us together, they'll kill you too. You still have a chance." "I don't." The man stepped closer, his shadow tall against hers. "No, you don't get to decide that. You're not alone anymore. Not while I'm here." The girl shook her head. "You don't understand who they are. They are hunters, soldiers, executioners. They don't feel pain. They don't feel fear. They will never stop." Her words hung in the cold air. The forest seemed darker. The red lights behind them grew brighter, closer. The man spoke low but steady. "Then we fight." Her eyes widened, almost in shock. "Fight against them? That's suicide." He gave a bitter smile. "Maybe, but at least it's not surrender." The girl's hands trembled. She pressed the crystal tight against her chest. "You don't know what you're saying. If I fall, this hope dies with me. That's why they will never allow me to live." The man stepped closer, placing his hand gently over hers. "Then I'll make sure you don't fall." Her breath caught. For a moment, the forest was silent, broken only by the faint crackle of hunters approaching. Her voice cracked, almost a whisper. "Why are you doing this?" "Why risk everything for me? You don't even know me." The man looked into her glowing eyes. His answer was simple. "Because I know what it feels like to be alone. To feel like you don't belong. And I won't let you carry that alone anymore." Her lips trembled, her tears shining. No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had ever chosen her before. But before she could speak, the forest lit up with red beams. The hunters had arrived, dozens of them. Their metal bodies glinting, their eyes glowing like burning coals. They moved as one, their voices echoing in broken static. "Target detected. Eliminate." The girl gasped, fear shaking her body. The man pulled her behind him, his stance firm. He whispered, "Stay low. Stay quiet. Don't let go of that crystal." The first hunter stepped forward, its metal claws scraping the ground. The others fanned out, surrounding them. The man's heart pounded. He had no weapon, no plan, only the will to protect. But sometimes will was enough. The girl clutched his arm, whispering through tears. "You'll die." He glanced at her, his eyes fierce. "Maybe. But not before I make them bleed." Her glowing eyes widened at his words. He wasn't afraid. Not anymore. The hunters advanced, their steps shaking the ground. The night filled with the sound of war machines ready to strike. The girl's hand began to glow brighter. The silver lines on her skin pulsed like fire. The crystal in her palm blazed with light. She whispered, almost chanting to herself, "If I release this, it will blind them. But it will burn me too." The man's eyes widened. "No, don't." Tears streamed down her cheeks. "This is my sacrifice. The only way you survive." The man grabbed her shoulders, shaking his head fiercely. "Listen to me. No more sacrifice. No more running into death. If you release it, you die. If you die, their war wins. We lose everything." The girl's lips trembled. "Then what do we do?" The hunters raised their weapons. Energy hummed in the air, ready to strike. The man's voice was calm but strong. "We fight together. If we fall side by side. But we don't give up. Not now." For the first time, the girl's fear turned into something else. Determination. Her glowing eyes burned brighter. She nodded, gripping the crystal tight. Then side by side, the hunters lunged. The forest exploded with red light, shadows, and screams of machines. The man threw himself into the fight, using nothing but his fists, his fury, his will. The girl's crystal pulsed with bursts of energy, blinding and shaking the hunters with waves of silver light. For every step forward the hunters took, The man and the girl stood stronger, refusing to break. And as the chaos raged, the girl realized something she had never felt before. She was no longer running to survive, she was fighting to live. The forest burned with red light. Hunters surrounded them, their glowing eyes fixed on the girl. Their metallic voices echoed through the trees. Target confirmed. Eliminate. The man stood in front of her, fists clenched, body tense. He had no weapon, no armor, no chance. But still he refused to move aside. The girl's crystal pulsed in her palm, glowing brighter with each passing second. Silver lines across her skin blazed like fire, lighting the dark forest. She looked fragile and powerful all at once, like a flame that could burn out at any moment. The hunters advanced. The man whispered without turning his head.
"Stay behind me," her voice shook. "If I do—"
"You will die. I don't care," he answered. His voice was steady. "Better me than you." Her eyes filled with tears. She shook her head. "You don't understand. The crystal, it isn't just proof. It's more." The man glanced at her, confusion in his eyes. "More?" Her lips trembled. She held the crystal tight against her chest. "It's my father's heart. Not his real heart, but his mind, his voice, his memories. Before he died, he poured everything into this crystal. His hope, his love, his dream of peace. That's why they want it destroyed. Because if the world sees what's inside, it will change everything." The man's chest tightened. So this was the truth. She wasn't just running with a weapon. She was running with her father's soul. Tears fell down her face as she whispered the words that broke him. "This crystal is the only part of him I have left. And if I use it to save us now, it will shatter. He will be gone forever." The man's heart ached. She wasn't just fighting for her life. She was clinging to the last piece of her father. The hunters raised their weapons. Energy hummed in the air, sharp and deadly. The girl's body shook. Her glowing eyes burned with sorrow. "If I save you, I lose him." The man turned fully to her, his face fierce, his voice gentle. "If your father loved you, he would want you alive. He gave you hope, not chains. He gave you this crystal to carry life forward, not to bury yourself in grief." She sobbed, clutching the crystal as if it were her own heart. "But if I let it go, I let him go." The man placed his hand over hers, pressing the crystal between their palms. His eyes locked on hers. "You're not letting him go. You're letting him live through you. Through every choice you make. Through every life you save." Her tears glowed like silver in the moonlight. For a moment she was silent. Then she whispered, "You sound like him." The hunters stepped closer, their red beams narrowing. Time was gone. The girl looked at the man. Then she looked at the crystal. Her trembling stopped. Her fear burned away. She whispered, "Then we fight with him." She raised the crystal high. The glow expanded, flooding the forest with silver light. The hunters fired, beams of red energy cutting through the air. But the crystal pulsed, sending out a wave that bent the light, tearing the beams apart. The man shielded his eyes as the blast shook the ground. Trees cracked. The hunters staggered, their red eyes flickering. The girl cried out, pouring her strength into the crystal. The silver lines on her skin blazed brighter, her entire body glowing like a star. The hunters collapsed one by one, their metal bodies crumbling under the surge of energy. The forest rang with the sound of machines breaking apart. Then came silence. The light faded slowly. The girl fell to her knees, the crystal still glowing faintly in her palm, but cracked. The man rushed to her side. "You did it. You saved us." She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. She showed him the crystal. A deep fracture split across its surface. The glow inside flickered, weak and fading. Her voice broke. "He's leaving me, my father." "He's fading," the man's heart sank. He wrapped his arms around her trembling body. "He isn't leaving. He's inside you now. Every breath you take, every step you make, you carry him. His dream lives because you live." She sobbed against his chest. The crystal flickered one last time, then dimmed completely. The silver light in her skin faded to a soft glow. The forest was quiet. The hunters were gone. The night was still, but her heart was broken. The man held her as she cried. He whispered, "I know it hurts. I know, but this isn't the end. This is the beginning." She lifted her glowing eyes, red from tears but filled with something new. Not just sorrow, determination. Her voice was small but steady. "Then I will live. For him, for peace. For us," the man nodded, his eyes fierce. "And I'll stand with you. no matter what comes next. Together they rose in the broken forest. Two figures against the night. One human, one not, both bound by loss and hope. The girl pressed the cracked crystal against her heart. Her voice carried softly into the silence. "Father, I won't fail you." The man stood beside her, his shadow long in the moonlight. He knew their fight was not over. The hunters would return. Others would come. The war was only beginning. But he also knew one thing with certainty. That night, humanity's future stood behind his back, and he would never let it fall.